After getting on for almost 2 decades worth of waiting, it seems Games Workshop have decided to revamp the Cadian shock troops. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're taking a look at Games Workshop's interesting decision to make the Cadian shock troops look that little bit smarter, but not by resculpting the kit, but to add an extra sprue into the existing kit. As I'm sure many of you are aware, the Cadian kit is quite a venerable one. It really is showing its age. I think the miniatures and the sculpts actually hold out quite nicely in terms of their silhouettes, and they are pretty iconic within the 40k setting. But the actual execution of the kit you can tell is just from really quite a long time ago. Certain details just look a bit chunky or clunky, in particular things like their heads and hands, and there's really quite a lot of mould lines on the kit when you make it. In addition, it's always had the downside of not having many of the special weapon options in the box. You get a flamer and a grenade launcher and that's it. But it seems that Games Workshop have chosen to add an extra sprue into the box to remedy those missing options and also give us a ton of different detail with new heads. Here we can see the new and improved Cadians, these guys making use of the vast majority of new options within the kit. We've finally got a plasma gun, a melter gun, a sniper rifle, power swords and plasma pistols, and a whole host of different heads which we'll see a bit closer in a second. Everything from Cadian hostile environment troopers to various bare-headed or mustachioed veterans. Here we have the actual contents that you get on the new frame, no less than 25 new heads, all of which can give the guard squad quite a different flavour compared with the very standard one that we have now, and then basically 7 new weapon options to the kit: the melter gun, sniper and plasma gun, bolt pistol, plasma pistol, bolter and power sword. I do quite like the way that they've really thought through the different options in the box. I must admit, having collected guards for a long time, it's really quite nice to see that bolter there. I've wound up converting quite a lot of bolter armed sergeants, just as it often tended to be a far better option compared with the las pistol. Nice to have an actual bolter that's actually designed for guard use, as opposed to one of the slightly more clunky Space Marine ones, that in all honesty do look a little bit big for the guard. All the choice of special weapons just means that you won't have to go raiding the command squad bits, or buying individual Space Marine sized special weapons and trying to meld them with the various weapon options on the infantry squad. It's really quite nice to see war gear that's actually fully designed for the job in hand. Then we come on to the various different heads. There's a fair few ones that seem to just follow the same sort of Cadian standard helmet, just with a few different facial expressions and things. I particularly quite like that one with the bionic eye and the beard. There's a hostile environment helmet, one with a face mask over him, one with a couple of playing cards tucked into his helmet, and you can also field an entire team of bare-headed guardsmen if you want to, which might well be a good way to denote an entire veteran team, and maybe just cement them as a team of battle-hardened individuals, as opposed to just the rank and file with the standard helmets. There's also a few female heads scattered around there as well. Good to have the option of some guardswomen as well as just guardsmen. Here we have a few close-ups of some of the ones that they've assembled. I think they do manage to mesh pretty well with the old kit. Of course, the vast majority of the model won't be new, it's just the heads and a few of the fancy weapon options, but I think that this goes to a really long way to making the kits look a lot more fresh and a lot more modern in 40k standards. I think a lot of the time when you're looking at the model, you're focusing on either the guns or the heads of them, and maybe it's just not quite as important to the eye if a few more of the soft details aren't quite as finely rendered. Here we have another few. I think that hostile environment helmet looks quite good in combination with the melter gun. He'll be well protected against any heat that blasts back from the gun, and the chap with the cap does look quite appropriate as a squad sergeant as well. Good to have a few other decent options as well as just that one yelling in the main kit. Now I think that the design choice, rather than resculpting the whole kit just to insert an extra additional sprue in it, is really quite an interesting one. I've seen a fair few reactions to the new kits, and I think that there are a fair few positives and negatives. On the plus side, I think it's quite nice that they've released some new Cadians, while managing to not invalidate the other models. As a guard player with over 300 of the guys, I'm breathing a small sigh of relief that Games Workshop aren't changing them too radically, and that the ones that I currently have still definitely will work. As I said, I think that the extra details do make the models as a whole look a lot sharper. It's really nice to have all the special weapons in the box for once, rather than having to harvest them from other sources. Particularly as I'm often more attracted to melter and plasma, it can be nice to have the squad have a bit of bite against heavies. And I think by including quite so many head options in the box, you can make a squad feel a lot more like a squad of veterans. Of course, in the guard we don't have different options for conscripts, infantry squads and veterans, they all come out of the same box. So now you could very much have conscripts armed with the more simple heads, and then perhaps have some veteran squads with the more characterful heads, like that chap with the cards in his hat, or some of the other ones that you find cool. Finally, for things that I like, I do quite like the way that they haven't just released this kit as a separate upgrade kit. I think it does make a lot more sense to include it in the box, so that now whenever you build a new Cadian kit, you will have the option of these different choices. I think if they'd released this just as its standalone kit, it would likely be an extra £8 or so. And I can't help but think that if they just package this with the Cadian kit, I suspect that we will get it at a slightly better value. As for downsides though, whenever Games Workshop does rebrand a box, it might often come with a small price increase, and it seems very unlikely that they'd break that pattern if they are adding new things into the box. Currently the Cadian shock troops are £22.50 or $36 US. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing them something more like £27.50 in the future. While it's really nice to have all the special weapon options and not lose anything, it's a bit of a shame that we don't have any new innovation or new options. I'm sure they could have thought for some things to add in if they really wanted to. Maybe something like giving us demo charges back for veteran teams. It is also a little strange that they're going to be sort of two different levels of detail within the same kit now. It means that the heads and some of the special weapons will be very finely sculpted, but maybe some of the hands and arms and bits aren't going to be quite as crisp. In particular, I think that their fairly chunky hands is something that doesn't really do the Cadian kit any favours. I think that might look particularly discongruous compared with some of the female heads perhaps. Maybe slightly more fine features on the head, paired with pretty enormous meaty hands. Could just look a little bit weird. Perhaps it might have been better for them to actually just resculpt the entire Cadian kit, as they did with the Tower Fire Warriors. I'm sure it probably would have been a lot more work and recreating things that basically look fairly similar. I feel like what they've done is fairly high impact for improving the kit, but also fairly low effort as well. Finally, I think one reaction from a lot of Guard players is that why are they resculpting the Cadians when there's quite a lot of regiments that have vanished for good. Games Workshop revisiting the Guard infantry really does help rekindle the hope that someday they might revisit things like Plastic Steel Legion, or maybe plastic kits for Valhallans or Mordians. I know it's been in the pipe dream of Guard players for quite a long time to have some sort of multi-part kit, maybe a greatcoat armed body, and then customizable parts for something like Steel Legion or Valhallans. It just seems like it could be quite easy to do and have really quite high impact. Finally, seeing not one but two resculpts of Guard miniatures within a week does make me wonder whether we might be getting a new Guard codex at some point soon. So far in 9th edition, we've barely had a single miniature that's been released that hasn't been accompanied by an update of their codex. If Games Workshop is going in and upgrading one of the main Guard infantry kits, then it certainly doesn't seem implausible that the Astra Militarum codex could be inbound. I'm definitely looking forward to that. There's a lot that they could do with the Guard, and a lot of units within the codex that just don't really work anymore in 9th edition and could do with a bit of a second look. So anyway, look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments. Is this Cadian resculpt a pass or a fail in your eyes? I think for me I'm quite positive about the whole thing. Sure, it's not an absolutely enormous change, but I think it's been very well thought out. Loads of character to be added with the heads, and all of the meaningful special weapon options that you couldn't get before, all laid out for you in one kit. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I'll certainly be keeping some Guard videos coming on the channel, including a big analysis of all their units sometime later in the week. Finally, if you have been enjoying the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention the Auspex Tactics Patreon page, which you can find down in the video description. Making all the content does take a fair amount of time, so if you're enjoying regularly, any support is massively appreciated. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, such as seeing certain new videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry to the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits every month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, then the link is down in the video description below. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.